Oh,
Happy to open the meeting, and just a couple comments before we begin. I'd like to welcome our new member, who is Mark Reginas. He is with us for his first meeting, and we are pleased to have him here. Thank you for running and hoping to serve the town. There's not a lot of people line up to do that, so thank you very much for that. Welcome.
thank you as well.
I'd like also to take this opportunity to thank Greg O'Sullivan, who has been seated at this table for 6 years, contributing his time and energy to the town and the town's business, so we thank him for that. And also to welcome our interim town administrator, who is named Greg, I'm going to say, help me with that name, just so I do it correctly. Ballyconis. And he is with us until probably the next 3 or 4 months, as we move through the conclusion of this fiscal year and potentially start the new fiscal year. I'm just guessing. And that being said, I think that we're probably ready to welcome public comment. Should there be any this evening? Public comment, anybody? It looks as if Mr. Fleming has an issue later in the agenda. So closing on, we'll move to the approval of meeting minutes, which do require votes.
Board reorganization.
Oh, yes, we do have to do that. Mr.
Yes.
Ballyconis, you can probably start us with
Board
that.
members, good evening, or should I say good afternoon. After the election, the board typically takes a vote to reorganize. And I'd like to just interject by saying that we're at that point of the meeting. So what we'll do is take nominations for chairman. And once the nominations are closed, we'll take a vote for the election of the chairman. The meeting will then be turned over to the chairman for election of any additional officers. So with that being said, I'd like to ask any of the board members whether you have a nomination or nominations for the position of chairman.
Yep, I would make a nomination for Maureen as the chairman.
Maureen, so noted. Are there any further nominations for chair? Nominations are now closed. What we'll do is we'll take a vote for the nomination, election of Maureen Marshall as chairman of the Board of Selectmen. And I ask the board to take a vote. It'll be majority. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
That's the quickest thing we'll do all evening.
Yeah, no, we're going to move through some of this pretty quickly, I hope. And then we've got the, DPW meeting to attend later. So we're busy tonight. Looking for the approval of meeting minutes that have been provided. March 20th, these will be minutes that will be approved and made public.
I would move to approve with an amendment to section 6, part D, to say select board instead of committee. And I would move for the approval with that amendment.
So we have a motion made and seconded to approve the minutes with the change noted by Mr. Dixon. I would second that motion. I would do so only because Mr. Reginas obviously was not been present during or part of the persons putting together those minutes. So those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those minutes are now made public and have been approved by the board. Moving on to the two other March 20th meeting minutes, March 20th and March 27th. Those are both meeting minutes that would not be made public due to the fact that they are involved in executive session. So March 20th.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes from the executive session on March 20th for approval but not release.
I would second that motion, that the minutes from March 20th executive session be approved, but not to release. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have abstentions?
I'm sorry.
An abstention?
Abstention.
I would also move for the approval of the executive session minutes from March 27th for approval but not release.
I would second the motion to approve the March 27th executive session meeting minutes, but not for release. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstention.
And we have one abstention. Okay. We now go into reports, and Mr. Ballyconis, I would ask you to sort of walk us through some of the things you've learned and some of the things we need, or from your recommendation, we need to pursue in the next several weeks or months.
Okay, so thanks for the opportunity to be here. I started off last Monday on Election Day, And I'm here 2 days a week for the public, typically Mondays and Tuesdays. But you can reach me through the office if anyone needs to get a hold of me. Just in the last few days, kind of getting acquainted. Needless to say, looking at the FY24 budget and looking at the best ways to really enact, follow up the responsibilities for assisting the board with the hiring of a new town administrator. It's kind of something that's very much in my mind. Excuse me. Typically with the board, when you're in a position like this, you would look at either whether you wish to bring on a consultant to assist with that process, or the board wishes to take that responsibility on its own. Secondly, if you wish to appoint a search committee. And then the thing that I see is kind of missing here that I would add that maybe you might want to take a look at is the having the duties and responsibilities defined in a bylaw for the town administrator. It's really a challenge to get a new person to come on board and not have any levels of responsibility or accountability. But it also is important for people to understand what the town administrator's role is. And I think that's probably one of the more critical things that I've seen in going through. There's a good job description that's done on the position, but sometimes there need to be something more than that.
I note in the review of those documents as well that while there's a lot of responsibilities laid out, there's very little sort of formal discussion, either by bylaw or in the position of a person's authority.
Yep.
And where that authority comes from. I mean, is there the authority to monitor personnel? Is there the authority to hire personnel? Is there the authority vested in this person? Because there's a responsibility, but it doesn't seem that there's the authority.
Right.
And is it the board's responsibility to give that responsibility and authority?
So I might have mentioned it to a couple of the board members. I worked in a community, I'm retired for those who want to know. I worked in a community prior to my retirement that was very similar to this and had an undefined town administrative position which presented many of the same challenges that you face here in Barre. The Board of Selectmen did bring to town meeting a bylaw which codified what the position's responsibilities were and really addressed what the role of the town administrator is as it relates to the budget, the capital plan, human resources. All of those are major issues, and more or less address those issues, and that was passed. So, like I said, I do have some experience in that area, and I'm happy to assist the board if that's a direction you want to go in. I think probably the best thing for me to do is maybe give you a copy of what I have and let you mark it up individually and decide whether it's something that's appropriate. I certainly don't want to be in a position to take away any of the responsibilities of the Board of Selectmen. The goal in this is to make your job easier. So, you make a lot of the appointments, and that was the same way it was done in the community that I worked in. The board retained the responsibility for appointments. But this seems to be, if you want to attract the right candidate, you need to really kind of have that out there, because otherwise people are reluctant to come to a position unless they're very early in their career without a definition of what the person does.
Any comments?
I think that would be, I think that would be beneficial for us to each get a copy of and take a look through.
Yeah.
I think that would be.
I've sort of, indicated that I think you're probably going to be here at least through the end of this fiscal year and potentially shortly thereafter. What would be the time frame that you would recommend the board move in order to, get the position voted and a new person ready to start?
So I think the most critical thing is whether you wish to engage a consultant, whether you wish to bring in someone who's got some expertise and some skill with recruitment of the next town administrator. That person will charge a fee. Now, the fee's not excessive, it's several $1,000s, but that's kind of the key issue that's really the board needs to think about sooner than later, because if you bring in a consultant, the consultant will want to have a updated version of the job description and really want to know whether there are additional items that are included in that. I think it's probably a good idea, because sometimes the quickest way to bring in someone who's a new town administrator is to go through the consultant process, and I've had good experiences with it.
Okay. Any questions relative to that? I would suspect then by the 24th of April, we should have a decision. We should contemplate this, discuss it further at the next meeting, and be willing to either say consultant or not consultant, and, you know, do some other sort of process, because we need to begin.
Yeah, I think that's a good time to put that on the agenda
Yeah.
for the next meeting, and be prepared to make a decision whether you wish to go with a consultant or you wish to go it alone, and whether you wish to go forward with a search committee or not is kind of a critical piece, because the consultant's fee will some part depend upon whether they're working with the Board of Selectmen or they're working with the Board of Selectmen and a search committee.
Mhm, mhm. Okay. Is it ever kosher, shall I say, for the Board of Selectmen to indicate that they, along with a couple other citizen representatives, would be the, kind of the search committee?
So the last two towns that I've worked in as an interim, I can say what they are, is Blackstone and Webster. Neither of those committees went with the search committee,
Okay.
because they felt as though it would just take too
Yeah.
much time.
Yeah.
And in the case of Blackstone, they entrusted the consultant to really narrow the list of candidates
Mhm.
and present the board with a list of 5 candidates
Mhm.
that they considered to meet the minimum qualifications for the position. So it works pretty well. I
Okay.
mean, it just depends on how you want to handle it.
Anybody have questions about that? Anybody?
Search committees,
What do you feel you were so more comfortable with on, I mean, seeing both ways, what, you know what I mean? Pros and cons?
The person's gonna be working for the Board of Selectmen. So your opinion is the most critical, and not to minimize the role of a search committee, but sometimes the members of the search committee don't understand the intricacies of town government and how business is conducted as a municipal government. And again, I don't wanna come across as I'm demeaning a search committee, because I'm not. It just sometimes, it kinda slows the process down, and may not necessarily end up with different results than if you had no search committee.
Mhm.
Some communities, the search committee is required. It's in the bylaws, and the bylaws state that you have to have a search committee. And I've seen board members argue about what the composition of that search committee is. And if you decide to go with a search committee, I've got some ideas on that, but there's no reason to discuss that until you decide
Right.
you want to go with that.
Okay.
Um,
Dennis, do you have a quick comment?
Having served on 2 of those search committees for the past, it is very time consuming,
Yes.
so.
We don't have the luxury of time. I
It'll
think.
build in about a month.
Yeah. Okay.
A month of extra time.
Yeah, okay.
Just a couple of quick updates. I did receive a request from Senator Goby's office. She's looking to see whether the town of Barre has any ideas for potential projects that you would like to consider as legislative earmarks for
Yeah.
fiscal year 2024. So she's kind enough to send that to us, and she said, please get back to us with any projects you may have associated with dollar costs. And given the fact that I've been here all of 1 week, I'm probably not the person to
Well,
come up with idea of projects.
I think that certainly the fire station that we've talked about and that we have some preliminary design and information about would be one that would be top priority, because obviously an earmark for that would be, I mean, an amazement beyond what we could ever expect. Do you have anything else that you would do?
Certainly, there's plenty of infrastructure
Yeah.
throughout the town that we can,
Yeah.
put together estimates for. I think
Yeah.
we have a DPW commission later tonight. We can
Well, I do worry
some
about
better input on that for sewer and water.
the water system, and we have,
Sure.
sections of the community where it is in very, very bad shape.
And we do have the CBDG, that block grant that we're using right now to fund the South Barre infrastructure planning.
Yeah.
So we are probably 6 months to a year from getting that report put together and having a good detailed view of what the needs are for sewer, water, transportation in South Barre specifically.
Yeah, I think that we're well poised for the fire station.
Yep.
We have the initial, plans, a feasibility study's been completed. I mean, whether or not the actual site has been determined, because I think I don't know who finally makes that decision, probably the 3 of us, I guess.
Yeah.
And that is like ready to go.
Well, the senator says, please get back, and I'm happy to collate your request, by April 28th, so we do have a little bit of time.
Well, I think it's very clear that what I would recommend, but I don't know if that's what the rest of the board would feel comfortable with.
I think it should be a topic also at the DPW commission meeting tonight. We should discuss at that public meeting as well,
Yeah.
what
And I-
options might be available, and
Yeah.
again, at the next meeting, have this on the agenda.
Yeah, for a final vote, because we need
Yes.
to let Goby know by, Senator Goby know by the 28th, so that only gives us a 4-day window. So the concern that I have is when the DPW meetings and the previous ones we've had, and we talk about the water systems that are of deep concern, they said, well, we already have plans. We did those plans 10 years ago. Those plans we may as well put in the trash. You and I both know that.
Right.
We don't have active plans ready to go from the state's perspective.
Yep.
Maybe from our perspective, but not from the state. So I just look at, the biggest nut for us to crack is this fire station. And it's, we can do a 40-year note. The only problem we have is we don't have the capacity to have a bond rating
That's true.
at
Yeah,
this time.
I certainly think that would be probably one of our top prospects.
And, well, because we're poised, we have the feasibility study, we have town support for that. And so I would be hopeful that we would really seriously consider that one as our,
Fantastic.
one to put our,
I
now,
assume there's not a specific limit too, if we could, this is our top priority, if there's
yes.
additional,
Yeah.
available, here are some other options.
Well, if we're looking for 17 million, trust me, she's gonna say,
Well,
Yeah, so that would meet the category of $150,000 and up.
yeah, that would. However, even if we could, get a chunk of it, or get on, her, shall we say, she understands that that's a huge priority for the community.
Yep.
I know that there's infrastructure money that is available for such projects, in addition to the '24 budget. And so maybe in her wisdom, she can think, we can get something together. Even if she gave us the first $1 million for the drawings, that would be nice, not
Yeah.
she.
That would be welcome.
Yeah, I would welcome anything, and Senator Goby has always been very supportive of our community, for sure.
Let me move along. I just got a couple of other quick informational items. So I received a letter from the, what's the name of the state agency? DCR, State DCR, which is the Department of Conservation and Recreation, Office of Dam Safety, concerning the old reservoir dam.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure to what extent Jessica had apprised the board, and but basically what they're saying is they're unable to identify the owner of this dam.
And we don't want to be it.
It's exactly what I wanted to confirm. And under no circumstances would I ever recommend that we step up and take responsibility for this, because it's really up to the state DCR to determine ownership,
Right.
not up to us, and not up to us to defend ourselves in terms of why we don't want to take responsibility for it. The cost of maintaining an old dam would amount into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and maybe even more than that.
Yeah.
So I think it would be a wise decision, and I will respond back to them and saying, the ball is in their court, for them to determine what the steps are that are necessary.
Would it be appropriate that we have a vote on that?
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to say that the town does not wish to have any interest in the dam, which is located at Old Reservoir Dam in Barre.
And by the old reservoir, I think, Mark, they mean the one way beyond up Haas Hill Road?
They
That
say,
way?
they identify it as saying west of Williamsville Road and east of Pleasant Street.
I know right where it
Yeah, but it's not the one that I could look down on from my
No.
house. It's the
It's
one
the
way
one-
up.
is. North of Allen's Fountain.
Yes,
Oh, way up in the alley,
Yeah.
right, I know what you're talking
yeah.
about.
And we don't want to own that damn problem. Could we consider a motion to authorize the acting administrator to provide the information that we're not interested in, saying that we would like to own that dam?
I'd make that motion.
We have a motion made, we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded about the town's desire to say it's not ours,
Exactly.
and we don't know whose it is.
It's up to them to determine
Yes.
that.
So you would find that letter for us?
Oh, yes.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for that.
And thank you, board members. That concludes my report.
I have just one other thing that I'm concerned about. I think it's a leftover item. We were I'm going to say it's probably 6 weeks ago now, we had a hearing on a nuisance dog. Would you
Okay.
say that's
Yes.
fair? And we voted to, because it was the second issue with this particular animal, and also the person who owns the animal had not even registered the animal or had done anything in order to comply with the original hearing orders, that the dog be taken from the home. I think that it may require Kopelman and Page to sort of look at some specifics as to whether or not we should hold another hearing and have the complainant, present. And also the individual a dog owner present who did not show up for the last hearing. That has been left in sort of never land, and I think we need to have, address it and move on one way or the other with that, either have the dog removed or not. I know that the animal control officer feels that has not gotten the information from the board that is necessary for her to have the dog removed at this point.
Has she said what further information she needs?
Well, she needs us to draft a letter, and I think Jessica had been working with Kopelman and Page, whether or not that was a huge priority for either Kopelman and Page or for, she was trying to get all the other things needed to be done. So we need to just look into that and see if there's some, shall we say, loose ends
Yeah.
that we need to address and get that taken care of. I understand that the dog was removed from the home by the owner, and it was gone for about 3 or 4 weeks, figuring that it was going to be the time frame that we were going to show up to remove the dog. And now the dog is back, and I know that the complainant of the constant barking and that sort of thing, I believe would, come again and have a conversation with us.
Okay.
Okay,
I
so
can
that's,
follow up on that.
that's just hanging out there for us, and I just wanted to make sure we,
Okay.
okay. So, select board reports, John, I know you have some stuff about master plan and,
Well, master plan, we had a few more, I wouldn't call them interviews, but sessions where we met with a few more people who weren't able to be at the Stone Cow event for, various medical reasons, whether at their homes or here, depending on what their situation was. So we've continued adding to that pool of data. We're getting some preliminary results from that, and we're hoping to have a public session later this year to take additional comment, but also to share the results that we have so far from the survey and from the visioning night with the public to show where we're at for phase 1 of the master plan. For other things, just kind of going back to an older topic, the Quabbin Regional School District Select Board representative for their collective bargaining agreement. I wasn't sure if anything further had come of that as to when we might be selecting someone with other towns, if other towns have voted.
Hardwick has declined participation. Oakham has declined participation. Barre, I guess we declined participation last meeting.
No, we voted for it.
We voted for
voted for
somebody to do it, but
participation.
no one on the board wanted to do it.
Mm.
So, okay, we would be happy for somebody to do it, but no. Obviously, it's inappropriate that I would do it.
Yeah.
I think. So, and then Hubbardston has not indicated an individual to do it. So, right now, they're, from what I understand, they're hoping to present the contract that they've negotiated with the teachers. I don't know if with other, I don't know who else they've finished with, on April 6th, because that's their next meeting, and obviously they will proceed with that. They have notified us and every other board, and I don't think anybody's sending a representation.
My understanding was that we would be meeting with other towns to select someone from those.
Well, that's
select
what you're
boards.
supposed to do, but Hardwick said,
Yeah.
we're not doing that. Oakham said, we're not doing that. New Braintree, too, said, we're not doing that.
Okay, and
So-
Hubbardston hasn't responded?
And Hubbardston hasn't responded. I mean,
Yeah,
Greg felt that he had a not so fun, he was the representative or something in the
Mhm.
past, and he didn't think that it was worth doing because, there's 15 of them and one of him.
yeah.
I get it. So I think, unless one of you wants to step up and say, gee, well,
If no one else is willing to, I was anticipating going to a meeting with the other towns, and if no one was willing to, potentially stepping up there. I'm not sure what we do now if we don't know if Hubbardston's participating or not.
well, the only thing we could do is, communicate with Hubbardston and see, but we don't have too much time, and see if does Hubbardston have someone who wants to do it? It's not like everybody's sitting around saying, gee, we can't wait, so many of us want to do it, we just don't know who to pick.
Pretty typical.
Yeah, I know, it's.
I've seen this before.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what it would entail?
Well, what it would entail at this point in time is you show up at the meeting. They would present, okay, to you as a member, so you'd be the 16th member of the board
Okay.
for that night. They would present the, you know, the agreement, concessions, and, you know, what they feel they've earned, what they conceded, what the salary is, et cetera, et cetera. And then there'd be questions from, you know, the 15 of their negotiation group. And there would be comments and concerns, and ultimately there would be called to vote. You obviously could actively participate, just like you were a school committee member, vote for it, vote against it, question it, register concerns, whatever. Greg felt that was, the job was really done, you know, because the 6 or 7 members from the school committee that's actually served at the table with the attorney really came with a package, and that package usually is what the others would vote for. He felt that he didn't have enough, that he couldn't stop the action if he was against it, so why go? Because he didn't manage, he said, like he said, he was just one of 16. Well, yeah, let's face it, if we asked the school committee to join us for something, would we put 4 of them up here? No, we'd put 1 and we'd say, hey, people, this is what we think, what do you think? So that's what the law says, that's what they do. And it is, and I would tell you that more often than not, there is not a town person, more often than not,
Okay.
having had some history with that.
Okay.
But you're welcome to throw your hat in the ring.
I think I'll hold off for now, given that. I think realistically, unless you think there's any chance it comes down to a close to split vote,
Oh, God, no.
then,
Oh, God, no.
okay.
I mean, I'd be shocked.
If there's a chance it would come down to a split and have some sort of say, but if it's gonna be, you know, as Greg described it, then I don't see any point.
I would say, yeah.
Okay. That's
I
helpful.
don't think Greg was making that up. I think it's probably pretty.
Well, it's helpful to clarify my understanding of the
Yeah,
situation.
Okay.
The other thing I just wanted to bring up, just with what happened earlier, as far as reorganizing the board, we did one position, we didn't do the others. We could either
That's
do, I'm fine just adding that to the agenda next time or going back to that
No,
later.
I think we can go back to that before we start new business, because the important thing is to get that warrant signed, voted and signed this
Yep.
evening, so that goes to the town clerk. But good point. Do you want to, we need to have a vice chair,
Yep.
and we need to have a clerk. And so do we have a nomination for a vice chair? I would nominate John Dixon to be the vice chair.
Vice chair as well.
And we have a motion made and seconded for you to become the vice chair. Would you accept that
I
position?
would accept that.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we need a clerk, and,
Here we go.
I would nominate Mark Reginas to serve as the clerk for the next calendar year.
Second?
We have a motion made and seconded to nominate and elect Mark, our new member, as the clerk. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so thank you John, for reminding me of that, my problem for that.
And then I have no other select board reports.
Okay. We have 2 under correspondence, we have Elisha Musgraves resigning, and a Steve Salvadore seeking to be renamed to the Barre Trails Committee. We have that information, I believe, in your folder here.
I don't believe, so, I'm not sure from what I read on Steve Salvadore's that he's looking for any appointment at this time. He's just.
Oh, he's giving us an
We're
update.
looking for an opportunity to provide an update.
Okay, so we'll have him at our next meeting to do that.
Um,
And Lisa Musgrave is seeking to be a resignation from what committee? Planning Board and Conservation? Okay, so she will no longer wishes to serve on either one of those boards, who I would accept her.
It's a few things back.
I would accept a motion on that, please.
I make the motion to accept the resignation with our appreciation for the work she's done.
from both the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board.
Yes, from the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission.
We have a second?
Second
We
motion.
have a second of the motion to accept the resignation with our thanks from Elisha Musgrave from the Conservation Commission and also the Planning Board. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Steve
If we could get
Salvadore?
those positions that are open now advertised out to the general public, that would be great.
And so Steve Salvadore, we'll be asking him to appear on the 24th to give us a brief update on the Barre Trails. Okay, new business. I believe you have the warrant for the
Yes.
April 25th special town meeting that was voted at a previous meeting and is now formally presented by the town clerk. We need to accept that and sign it. Just make sure we've got everything. I know our constable is waiting with bated breath for that. Okay.
Lucky you.
We need 3 signatures, obviously, on this. Could we have just a formal motion to sign the special town meeting warrant as presented by the town clerk?
I move to approve and sign the special town meeting warrant as for April 25th.
As-
As
as-
presented by the town clerk.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to accept the warrant presented to us by the town clerk for the special town meeting on April 25th, 2023. We'll sign that, and the constable is here, and he is eager.
He do it away.
Do we give this to him, or, yeah, okay, and I think, Dennis, thank you for your,
Madam Chair, what time is that meeting?
I believe it starts at 6.
6?
Their special time?
Yeah.
Oh, Yes, so-
It's at the top, on the front page, should be up top. I mean, it's 6:30. Right at the top, the very first paragraph.
I don't see it.
I don't see it either. We are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of the town of Barre, vote in a town election and town affairs to meet at the Ruggles Lane School, but it doesn't tell you what time.
It's not on the Dennis?
It is not.
I need to do that.
It is not on there. Is it on that one? I don't,
I don't see it.
no. It should say 6
Yeah,
PM.
we can't sign this without it, right?
No.
Yeah, it says it right here,
Oh, it doesn't?
at 6:30 PM.
Oh, 6:30.
Yep,
6:30.
Bold right there,
Oh,
yeah.
the bold, none of us.
It's the bolded line.
Good catch there.
Well, I'm glad you caught it.
Yeah.
We'd be redoing the warrant right
Tuesday, the
now.
25th day of April 2023 at 6:30 PM.
Okay, perfect.
It's the bolded line right under. so
Yeah,
you
it's
read
not
us
where
the
you would
first
think it would
paragraph,
be.
And then you have a bold line with the time and date.
It's
On the
its
front of
own
it,
On the
Dennis.
front
sentence.
page.
Front of it.
It's its own sentence.
I didn't mean to cause such controversy. Just trying to put it in my calendar.
So Dennis is waiting for this?
They'll
All
post
right,
that.
I'll have to sign it real slow.
Second page.
Of course.
Ellen will fix it. She'll put it together.
I think we're ready. Okay. Okay, we have a request to use town property for an Earth Day event, community cleanup.
She did it last year too.
Kate Hall. We have a motion?
I'm just looking for it, so.
She did all the appropriate
What's the date of
paperwork
this?
and so
April
forth.
22nd?
Okay.
Yep.
I'm good with that.
And we're good on the location?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. I would make the motion to approve the use of town property for April 22nd for a Earth Day event.
Second?
Second the motion.
We have a second to approve the request to use town property as an Earth Day event. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, that looks like you'll contact that person and make sure she knows that.
Where is that, is, Center Common?
Yeah. And we have an appointment of election worker, David Flick. And we have the paperwork for him, his application. He appears to have been recommended by the town clerk.
I would make the motion to approve David Flick as the election worker.
We have a motion made, we have a second?
Wait a second.
We have a motion made and seconded to appoint an election worker, David Flick, is presented by the town clerk. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have wage authorization for Kyle Noel. Appears that he's on the firefighter thing, looking for proposed hourly salary. His current is firefighter step 4. He'll be moving, it looks to a fire department 4 LT. That must be lieutenant?
Yep.
Okay, and so he will go from 1526 to 2166. And he has been, looks like Jessica has signed that, as well as Scott, the person who's acting fire chief. Those in, we have a motion?
I will make the motion to approve the wage authorization for Kyle Noel to $21.66 an hour.
We have a second?
A second.
We have a motion made and seconded for changing the wage authorization to Kyle Noel, firefighter, from, what was it,
Is it
1526
15
to,
or 19?
it might be 19.
That's what I'm thinking.
It could be
Is it
19.
19?
Their penmanship is not the best. I would say 15, but it looks like it could be, it makes
That would
more
be-
sense
that
that
would
it's
be-
19.
It seemed, yeah, it's only, it's not
Yeah.
like it's a
Increase
big
would be
jump.
19.
Yeah, it must be, would you just finalize that? I'm pretty sure it's 19 would make sense. It looks like 15 to me, but,
But we're increasing to $21.66,
Yeah.
so 19 would be appropriate for this.
yeah, I think so
Yeah,
too.
that's what I was
So the hourly rate that we would be voting on is 2166, which we couldn't do. Those, we have a motion made and seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
I-
Okay, old business. I know we are going to go into executive session at 5:45 or close to it, because our attorney will be calling us, but this might be her saying something here. Just gonna say. She'll be calling us at 5:50 PM. So we got about 15 more minutes. Old business. Just to bring you up to date, we have received a letter. It's in great big print here, so you can't miss it, from the individual owner. Her attorney represents her for the, I'm going to call it the old, the Broad Street building. Okay, we all familiar to that, right across from Broad Street on North Common. That they are seeking us, it says here, as to, they want us to, this person wants to sell the property to us. We don't know if we want to buy it yet, because we don't know everything we need to know about the property. She says, the bid you have for the appraisal, I believe that it makes sense for the town to go ahead and do an appraisal. I would think that it would, will need to be done no matter what order we move the grant funding along. If the town's appraisal comes back with a number that satisfies Ms. Brooks, great news. If it does not, Ms. Brooks can do her own appraisal, and we can compare to see if we can come to terms. I have received appraisal quotes and reasonable timeframes or timelines from 2 very reputable appraisal companies, both of which have highly qualified appraisers. Both are more expensive than your quote, and that quote is quite old. But it makes no sense for Ms. Brooks to pay for an appraisal if your appraisal is acceptable. The select board, I mean, I could say Ms. Brooks could do the appraisal, and if it's acceptable to us, it makes no sense for us to do the appraisal. But anyway, the select board could go ahead and allocate the funds to move the project along, but it seems unnecessary that she and I attend a meeting for that purpose. Again, Ms. Brooks is very interested in selling the property to the fire station. It would make her very happy. Understand that she is a long-time Barre resident. She does have, a feeling that she wants to participate in this project. I don't think that that's a comment that the lawyer has made that's inaccurate. I believe she does care about the community and so forth, but at any rate, that is the old business. That is something I would suspect we would have conversations about in another meeting.
I think it might also be worth reviewing how we got to, so there are 2 locations, I believe,
There's 3.
3 locations, and I believe there was a report that was done at some point,
Yes.
correct?
They,
If we could-
the people who did the feasibility study had 3 different, they looked at several sites, but had 3 that they would recommend, or they wouldn't recommend. They recommended this particular site on the town common,
Mhm.
and felt that that would be a great option for us. They also secondarily recommended the old, where the municipal parking lot is, right behind the town hall,
Mhm.
because the town owns that land. And because the town owns the land, obviously, that takes a big burden off of, all of the other stuff that, a new appraisal and buying and raising a building and all of that. So it would be more cost-effective. They didn't feel that it would be what they wanted from, I don't know who served on that committee, but, basically they felt that that would be the best location, which would be on the common space. They also looked at an area next to the public safety building down in that area. That seemed to be really thumbs down by the board, by the community group that was working on this project. So I would say the top 2 were the Broad Street one that we're talking about and the municipal lot. The downside of the municipal lot is the municipal lot goes away, and there's very little uptown parking as it is, so that was a downer for that. Both properties have problems of concern that we would have to really do borings for to find out if environmentally that, what we call the Broad Street property, whether or not that would be appropriate because of, we don't really understand. It was an old gas station. It's also, been a place for car repair for, probably 15 or 20 years. So we're a little concerned about what might be underneath. Also, the whole area of uptown is loaded with ledge. There's ledge everywhere. So if you're really talking about doing any sinking in any, it's challenging up in that area. So without having that information, I don't know if there's really the perfect spot. But there is, certainly conversations about wanting to purchase the property that she talks about, which is the Broad.
In short, go ahead,
Go ahead.
sorry.
One of the items that was actually discussed at the visioning night, one of the topics, people were able to put markers down for different municipal services, including potentially a new fire station. As those results get processed and become available, it might be good to look at the initial study that was done for this as well,
Mhm.
to make sure it's still in line with what the people of Barre would look for emergency services.
Mhm.
So, just wanna,
My question was on the site of the municipal building we have now. Why was that a thumbs down on that? What was it?
Well, I would hesitate to give you all the specifics, but
Okay.
there's documents where you can see their pros and cons for each of the sites.
And
They
who-
talked a lot about,
Who was they?
there was an architectural firm that
Yeah.
was, employed by the community that worked with a group of individuals appointed by the select board, and that they would work with this, and to create a feasibility study to look at various sites. And they looked at the public safety building and felt access or the slope of the land, and I won't get into the specifics, because I don't
Yeah.
remember all of it, but those documents are available for your review,
Yeah, I'd like the same for sure.
One of them was response times. How to get from the center of town here is ideal.
Well, like I spoke before about it, the ISO insurance ratings for your residential and businesses and everything, for the 5-mile circle you got around, you know what I mean? How does that affect the community as well?
It's all in that report.
It is?
We'll make sure you get that report. Would you make sure that even John gets it?
yeah,
And
that was before my time.
we all get it, and probably Greg would like to look at it
It
as
wasn't
well.
done that long ago.
No. Well, I was just rolling onto the board, and I can remember the presentation, which was quite specific and quite long.
And we interviewed a few different companies
Yes.
to pick that.
Right.
It just seems as though the bill of goods that was sold when that was built to begin with that was gonna be like the main, and now it's not, which is kind of disheartening.
Right.
What was going to be the main?
Public safety.
Police,
The public
fire,
building,
that's
public
what-
safety building, that was gonna be,
Both,
you know,
everything.
both, everything.
Well, I think that there were decisions made about that, and for probably good reasons, I can remember being at the town meeting where the selectmen said, we have $3 million that Steve Brewer pretty much got kind of manipulated through for, this project. And the selectmen said, we will not entertain even a motion to change that number. We don't want to put any, local public money into the project. We're only going to do $3 million. That, that was the vote. And certainly I will tell you that Mike Koval was not a happy man with that vote. He thought that that was short-sighted and so forth. Other people said, why can't we just vote on it? Maybe we'd rather spend more money and get everything done at once. So at any rate, that was the decision made by that town meeting group to only spend $3 million. They ended up spending another $150,000 because of site work problems and concerns. And I think they had some issues with technology and cable access and that kind of stuff as well. So probably it ended up being more than the $3 million, but that's basically why. It was really the board's decision to just do $3 million at the time. And they felt that that was, more than, they had the money for it, money in hand.
I don't know if this is the appropriate time to even mention this, but when the owner of what was P&F and Beards bought it, the current owner, I'm not sure if they got it at auction or however they acquired it, there was something that happened.
It was
They
bought
just
on the
outlawed
auction
it.
day,
Was
but
it?
it was under the,
Yeah, I knew something was
before
close to
then,
that. Irregardless, did they do
I believe that they have some information and some data, but they have not either found it or they don't have it from DEP, obviously. So we need whatever information we can get about what's underneath that
Yeah,
building,
was
for sure.
there something done back then, and which wasn't that long ago?
I would tell you, we don't know.
How long has the Brookses owned that? 5
2,
years?
no,
Not even?
no, I would say it's 2 years, maybe 3.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
at the
right.
most, I think 3 would cover it.
So certainly the Mrs. Brooks would be happy to provide us with any information she has. She's
Yep.
not been at all
I know her
difficult to
well,
work with.
And I know her husband.
Yeah.
Nice people.
Yeah,
I could understand if something was bought on an auction day, it might not have had all of the
Yeah,
background work prepared first.
Well, there's no
Yeah,
question that the
typically.
town could not go forward with this without that information.
Right.
I do remember, if I may, don't know the dates, 25 years ago, around there was a big push to get rid of all the one-pump gas station tanks.
Mhm.
And everybody around here took advantage of that. The bus barn, Beards, Johnny No Gas. There was a few of them.
Mhm.
Swenson's old garage, was
Oh.
called
Yeah,
Johnny
Swenson's,
No
yeah,
Gas, 'cause
yeah.
he never had gas.
Oh, yeah.
All those were dug up and the bad soil around them was removed. And
Taken out.
I remember when it was done.
Yep.
That was just the gas pumps. Who knows,
Yeah.
whatever else.
Well, the thing obviously is, our responsibility would be to try to do the due diligence necessary to
Oh,
ensure
absolutely.
that we don't buy something that we look at each other,
Well, demolition and
Yeah.
Proper
and
due
removal
diligence.
alone is at an
Huge.
all-time high.
Yeah.
I can tell you that for a fact.
Well, anyway, I know that we've got to go into executive session here pretty quickly. We
Thank
have,
you.
thank you, we have one other
Have a good
item,
night.
which
Thank
is,
Thank you.
Nice to
which
meet you.
is
Good to
the,
meet you too. Thank you.
we have the 250th anniversary, we have a contract for DJ services.
Oh, yeah, where is that?
Yeah. And for $200, and
Yeah.
obviously, it's $200 per hour, I guess. I don't know how long their event is going to
No, I
start.
thought it was
No, unit
$50
price is
an hour.
Oh, it's
50 an
50.
hour for
Oh,
4
50.
hours.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cheap. Okay. I know that they
It is pretty
have,
cheap.
already our accountant has an amount of money that they have already, raised. And I believe what we've been doing is authorizing the expenditure of $200 out of that fund until
account.
we get the special town meeting vote. So I think we can pay the invoice if we have an approval for that.
Yep, I would move to approve that. That is for the August 4th event.
Yes.
I move for the approval of to pay the invoice for $200 to, who is this actually to? Brian LaRue,
DJ Brian.
DJ Brian Entertainment Services.
Do we have a second?
A second,
We have a motion made and seconded to spend the $200 for DJ services
DJ Service.
from DJ
Bryan
Bryan
Entertainment
Entertainment Centers for an event that would be on August 4th, 2023. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I think we are, at this point, need a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of discussing, shall we say, collective bargaining issues, and so we need that vote. John, would you mind?
I would move to enter executive session, subject to Mass General Law 30A subsection 21A, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares, specifically for the police union negotiations.
We need a roll call vote for that. Mr. Dixon, would you begin, please? We have a second, please?
Dixon, yes?
Second.
Okay, so Dixon,
Dixon, yes?
Mark,
I'm sorry,
Mr. Reginas,
I
yes?
didn't hear him.
Oh,
So it's a roll call vote, so you just say your name and then yes or no?
Oh, okay.
you could to go into
All right,
executive
okay.
session.
Yes.
So it goes on the record.
Marshall, yes? You'd say Reginas, yes. You'd say Reginas, yes.
Oh, Regina,
So
yes,
we
okay.
can, so we
Right.
get into
Okay.
executive
Go on.
session.
That's what, roll call, is that what that is?
Contract looks like it's been
So-
been gone through a couple
so,
times.
Sorry, we just have to.
Just a